a song I wrote. This is a song about the birthplace of the great Chet Atkins. It's a place called Luttrell, Tennessee. This tune's called Luttrell.
From when he was born and I took him home, I used to feed him and then put him in the pram and put him up against the stereo and put an LP on. Right from the word go, and if he didn't have that, he'd be whinging. Yes, he had to have the music. So I always did that, and then when he could sit up, I strapped him, so in the pram, so he could sit there and enjoy the music too. And then I'd go in a little while after to check on him, and his head would be dropped down like this, sound asleep. And then as he got a little bit older, if it stopped, he'd say, "Turn it over," like that, for the LP. Yeah, he knew you could turn it over and get some more. Yeah, he always liked his music, he really did.
Judging from what was playing on the radio when we first started playing, by going back and seeing copies of old top 10 hit parades, I think we started playing in late 1959, maybe early 1960. And of course, and so that's that's the kind of music we were listening to when we were kids, and then it kind of developed into the Beatles and Eric Clapton and people like that, and of course Chet was always there, Mel Travis and Jerry Reed. Even back then, when we were just kids, straight away I wanted to play lead. And Tommy wanted to play rhythm. He loved playing the rhythm guitar. Or let's see. So I used to learn all those parts and try to make them sound big. And Phil used to do all the lead bits, We actually had no bass player, so I used to do all the bass parts. So. And that's kind of, I think, how I got onto the idea of playing the bass with the melody and all that stuff, out of necessity. After he'd been playing rhythm for a few years, he used to start using his thumb over the top. And, of course, we used to be told that it's not done to put your thumb over the top. You do not use your thumb when you play a guitar. You should use your fingers and your thumb should be behind the neck. And Tom used to play the bass line with his thumb while he was playing rhythm, and it used to make a lot of difference to the rhythm and really add to the feel of the song. And after a while, our father eventually said, "Look, don't be worried about using your thumb. It's a part of your hand. That's your body. You're playing the instrument with your body. You can use your thumb. Who said you can't? We just read it somewhere." And that was the beginning of his really good rhythm playing. He's rock solid rhythm player.
and Phil could play a little bit. There was a chap in town in Gunnedah that played a Hawaiian steel, and he showed me a little bit. I got 4 kids at school.
My dad's health wasn't so good. He had a heart condition and he died young.
I think they missed him more. Taking them places in the car and that sort of thing, you know, because he'd take them fishing, he'd take them somewhere where they could swim.
It must have been so tough for her when Dad died to know that she had to carry on and raise 6 children on her own, you know, and I think she just kind of, you know, pulled her boots up and got into it, and that's what she said. And I said to her many years later, and you know, you were only 40 when Dad died. You never met anybody else, and you never wanted help. You never wanted another relationship. And she said, no one could ever take his place. Forget it. I just wasn't interested, you know. And that's the way she's always been. There was Dad, and that was it, you know.
And then after a little while, some of the others we had with us and the boys. Buddy Williams came around and wanted us to travel, so everyone wanted to go, so we went with them.
By the time I was 12 years old, we were on the road with Buddy Williams, who was a fantastic guy and really, really helped us out.
We used to just pull over onto the side of the road and light a campfire, and Mum used to cook for 13 people, as well as dress us, look after all our clothes and everything, and put 20 cents in the corner of our hanky and sit in our top pocket and send us on stage and all that sort of stuff. She was looking after our younger brother and younger sister as well as doing all that. Plus she was running the ticket box. She never stopped, and she was on the road all the time. And when you think back about it now, look, I've got 4 children, Tommy's got 2, and we often say, how the hell did Mum do it? You know, with that many kids on the road. And but we got used to it. And Mum got used to it too. Well, the Lord be good to her.
When I was in my late teens, 18 and 20, around that period, I went through a real sad period of, you know, because my dad died when I was 10. And I thought, you know, I really wish he was here to see all this and to, you know, to talk to and all that kind of stuff. And then when Amanda, our first daughter, was born, that all disappeared because I suddenly realised I'm Dad now. And that something was sort of handed on, you know, and so I took over a different role. I took over a more important role because I'm a dad, you know, and it means everything to me, you know.
When we finally got to Parks, and we went to Parks High School, there was a PE teacher, and we had to play sports. We didn't want to know about playing sports. We've never been interested in sports, ever. So on Wednesday afternoons, which was sports day, we used to stay at home.
Because we didn't want to play football, you know. So we'd just go and do other things, you know. We'd mow lawns or play guitars or whatever, you know.
We were at assembly one day and both our names were called out. We had to report to his office. We went down to his office.
He was always very stern with me and all that kind of stuff, and very, very unfriendly, in fact.
You two have been absent every Wednesday afternoon ever since you've been to this school. He said, you've never done a Wednesday afternoon of sport. And he said, we used to bring a note from our mum, you know, and he had this pile of notes from Mum.
Every Wednesday, Mum had to make up that letter. Poor Mum.
They generally tell me what they wanted to say. They'd tell me the excuse, so sometimes I used theirs, sometimes I used my own.
Anyway, one of the notes was, Phil and Tom can't come in, I'm giving them a music lesson. Right? So anyway, this PE teacher says, oh, you're doing music, eh? What are you playing? And Tommy said, oh, Mum's teaching us the guitar. We're playing the guitar, see? And anyway, and this teacher, he really wanted to, you know, he didn't like us at all. And he said, you're playing the guitar, do you? He said, your mother's teaching you guitar. And he said, I just happen to have one here. He said, I might get you to play me something. And anyway, he reached around and he's got a little catgut string Yamaha nylon string guitar behind him. And he reaches out, passed it over the thing, and he gave it to Tommy and he said, "Here, you show me what Mum's been teaching you." Yeah. So Tommy picked the guitar up and he tuned it. And then he played Yankee Doodle and Dixie both together.
Yeah, it's an old Chet Atkins thing. So you play this, and so. Like that.
And the guy shit. The guy absolutely shit. He could not believe it.
He wanted to come to me for lessons then.
This teacher said, "Look, you two just keep having lessons with Mum every Wednesday." That's good, fine. On the rare occasions when we actually did get into Sydney, we were living up in Parks, you know, and having our Wednesday afternoon music lessons with Mum. And occasionally we'd go down to Sydney. And one particular time we went down to Sydney to Harry Landis's.
Oh yeah, Harry Landis, that's right, yeah. Yeah, the guy was going to throw me out of the shop because I wanted to play a Gretsch guitar.
We'd never actually seen a Gretsch guitar in the flesh, you know. We'd seen them on the covers of Chet Atkins albums. And there was a line of them in the front window, and you could see them inside on the stands, you know, and it was too much. I mean, we went in and Tommy picked one up and started, we were trying to plug it into an amplifier, and this owner of the shop come over and he just, "Do you know how much those guitars are worth? Don't you just leave those bloody guitars alone," you know, and I said to the guy, "Let him play it, he can play it."
I think I was about 14 at the time, and I talked him into taking it down off the shelf and plugging it into the amp. And then I proceeded to play some tunes on it, you know, and I drew a bit of a crowd. You know, I should have taken the head around.
This guy's speechless. He could not believe it.
He was very nice to me then, you know. But I used to love playing in music shops because you got surrounded by all these guitars, you know, you take one down and plug it in, put it back and take another one down. And you know, people enjoy to hear something like, you know, someone sitting playing music in the shop, as opposed to, you know, noodling around trying 4,000 different pedals. So it's always important to play music, you know, even in a music shop.
I was in this music shop in Brisbane, and I saw a Telecaster there, and I thought, I'll plug this in and just see what the difference is. Because I played Fender Jaguars, Fender Strats, Jazz Masters, but never a Tele.
There was just a wall of Fender Teles, and we just went and picked the nicest looking ones, you know, and because they were all identical.
I plugged it into the amp and started playing it, and this guy come over and told me to put it down, and, you know, the usual. So, I mean, I just had enough by then, you know. And I said to this guy, "How much is this guitar?" And he said, "Oh," I said, "too much for you to afford." I said, "How much is it?" $595, which was a hell of a lot of money in those days. And I said, "I'll take this one." And I said, "My brother wants that one there. I'll take the both of them." And of course I had no money on me, so I said to him, put them in the Fender cases. We want real Fender cases with the badge on them. And we want real Fender leads, real Fender straps. We want this and that, and throw in some strings and everything like that. And then I walked out of the shop. I left Tommy in the shop. I walked out of the shop and went down to a public phone booth on the corner and rang a finance company. And they gave me the money. They approved it and everything. So, and we actually got on good with those people in that shop after that. They used to, every time we go in there to buy strings, you know, I think they were a Greek family or something like that. I was like, "Give us 3 sets of Ernie Ball slinkies or something like that." And he'd go, "Oh, you go 1, 2, 3, and one for your brother, and one for your mother." Like this, and he'd charge me for 3. Oh, really good people.
I learned a lot about hire purchase when I was a kid. I did. I bought my first car long before I had a license. I was 15 when I bought my first car. I used to drive it all over the place. I got it from a drummer. It was a Fiat. It was a very, very good car. playing a tune like Stevie's Blues, where there it is, right? But if I break it, so I should be able. I shouldn't lose you, the listener, as I'm playing those single notes, and the groove is. Then it should feel the same. Even it doesn't matter what I do, and that's something that you can't just learn out of a book. You've got to feel it with your body. It's got to come from inside you and in your head as well. When I teach, first of all, the rule number one out of the Chet Atkins Book of Experience in Life. Turn to page 1, and it says, "Tap your foot." That's a. You cannot make good music unless you show expression and feel the groove. So tap your foot. And then I try to make people aware that inside us, connected to our heartbeat, is a drum. And it beats, it's constant, and if you tune into it, it's fantastic. Then you use your mind to form a feeling and a picture of that time and that groove. So when I'm playing away, say if I'm playing something really slowly, so when I'm doing that, there's my foot going already, right? But then in here is a, and in my mind is, so there's this drum kit going on in my body. So not to let me lose the thing. And then when that's taken care of, then the expression comes out and the ideas flow. I couldn't do that if I didn't have all this other gear going, you see. You've got to learn that if you want to play with expression and feeling and the groove, And the old saying, page 2 on the Chet Atkins Book of Life, if there's no groove, the body can't move. Phil can hear a dog make a noise at 50 paces and say that's an E flat. He's got an amazing ear. And he would learn something new and always show me. He would work something out and then he'd show it to me, So in essence, when I was young, he was my teacher to some degree.
We were spearfishing, not with the spear gun. We were using Hawaiian spears. We were down near Streaky Bay, South Australia, I think. And not long before that, someone had been taken by a great white shark.
And it was just gone dusk, and we had a pretty powerful torch, and we had these steel spears.
Anyway, Tommy put his foot under the sand and started flapping his toes, and I picked it up and the light went like that I speared him in the foot.
And it hurt like hell. It went straight through the side here at my ankle, and then the spear fell down and sort of did that and grabbed hold of the bone.
I got the spear out of his foot. And by that time, the water had come up to here. I was pulling the spear through about 6 inches at a time, and then I had him in my arms like this, and I ended up putting the spears down, and I got him on my shoulders, and I started walking back towards the shore, and the tide was coming, and the water was. I wound up swimming with him, and all I could think of was his foot's bleeding like hell. When the spear come out, it bled really bad, and I could just see us getting eaten. But we didn't get eaten. But that was the longest 10 minutes of my life, going from there to the shore.
I never felt pain like that. It was unbelievable.
No, he didn't tap his foot that night.
I mean, that's not the only thing. I mean, he did try to cut my foot off with a lawnmower. He ran over my left foot and severed all the toes across the top, and wounds, you know, this wide right across here, but it didn't do any permanent damage. I was very, very lucky, you know, because that's my stomping foot, you know, that's what I keep time with. So there was that, there was the spear, there was something else he did. Oh yeah, you see this scar here? That was Phil pushing me into a brick wall. I was pestering him to go faster on this bike, you know. I didn't really know how to ride, I was only 4 years old. And he said, no, you don't want to go too fast. And I said, yeah, I want to go faster, faster. Oh, all right. So he just went like that. And away I went. Of course, I'm heading straight for the wall now. I didn't know where the brake was, so I stopped it with this. But when I first did it, it was about that long, you know, and it sort of shrunk up as I got older. So there you go. He's tried to kill me a few times. Brotherly love, you know. Late 70s, I was working at the Miranda RSL Club because I thought I'd better get a straight job for a while. And the reason I took that job, again, like I've done everything in my life, for the experience, right? It was a Friday, Saturday, Sunday job, and it was working for a guy named Lee Gallagher, who was a great piano player. And another reason why I took the job is that I tried to get my reading together. And I just couldn't do it. And I could read chord charts and follow things, you know, 4 chords to the bar, I could do that no problem. But I'll be damned if I could read the notes. And it never clicked in, and it still hasn't. Prior to that, I'd been in a band called Gold Rush, which Phil was the lead guitar player of. I ended up playing drums for a while and singing harmonies, and I had a ball. You know, I went for nearly 12 months where I hardly played the guitar at all. And I used to practice, completely different to other drummers, because when I became a drummer in this band, I did nothing else but live and breathe drums. So I used to practice on a pillow to build my wrists up, you know, because I'd have to play very fast 2/4 tunes, you know, where the tempos are like this, and to play that on the drums and keep that up, you know, and keep it constant and in the pocket takes a lot of actual physical strength and endurance. But anyway, so I did that job, and then during the week I'd do, you know, 25 studio dates and play on everyone's records, Marsha Hines, Renee Gayer, you name it, Air Supply, blah, 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 and the list goes on.
We had a band called the Southern Star Band, which included Duncan Maguire, the beautiful bass player from like, the In Focus days, and Mark Kennedy, who had been the young drum prodigy, Frank Esler-Smith, who also is no longer with us, who on keyboards, who ended up doing all the beautiful string arrangements for Air Supply, and Steve Housden played on the original track of our album, but Steve was unavailable for the rest, and Duncan had heard about Tommy and had a talk with him. Tommy came to rehearsal one night at Frank's place, and I remember he arrived with a tiny little amp. No pedals, nothing, just the amp, you know, and I turned up, and away we go into this tune. I couldn't believe how loud they were playing, and I had to, you know, really get it slamming. Jesus, you blokes are loud. He said, you blokes are so loud. The next day, there I am, I'm out buying big amps and lots of pedals. Oh, you're out, you mongrels, I'll play loud too. An amp twice as big, a whole floor full of foot pedals, and he was as loud, if not louder, than us.
That's when I kind of fell in love with playing with a lot more dynamics, and you know, I learned how to play funky rhythm things. Get away. Remember Earth, Wind and Fire? Today.
The Man's Room was this notorious but wonderful music room right in the centre of the cross.
We played the Man's Room quite a lot. We had a residency. I think it was Wednesdays and Thursdays.
It was great. A lot of American acts and overseas touring acts would walk in there and occasionally have a blow, and it was just a beautiful sort of music sort of room.
And we'd cram people in there, like cram them in.
The only bad thing was that getting home every morning at dawn and feeling, you know, oh God.
Quite often you'd leave there at 7 in the morning and walk into the sun, you know. It's like, oh, I've done it again, you know. You fool. And
turn on the television because I couldn't go to sleep straight away, and there's the Thunderbirds on TV, and it would depress the hell out of me. Not the Thunderbirds thinking, how am I going to get to sleep?
Whenever you call me, I'll be there. I'll be around. The famous Thomas Emmanuel lick there on the. That would have been the first time that I ever encountered Tommy. I think it was at the Man's Room with Doug Parkinson.
Whenever you call me, I'll be there. Whenever you want me, I'll be there. Whenever you need me, I'll be there. I'll be around.
That was a great tune, that one. And there was a solo. I remember I played the solo on that, and I was just messing around, and it sounded pretty good, so we just used it.
He was just starting to really come into his own, I think, you know, when he was with Doug Parkinson's band, because that was everyone was really starting to take notice of him, and word was kind of going around that this, you know, where did this guy come from that was such a, you know, guitar virtuoso. So I think that was sort of the beginning of it, and then he sort of drifted into playing with John Farnham and different things, as well as having his own bands going. But I think that was before his recording career really started. But yeah, he was the guitar player that everybody wanted in their band.
We lost our guitar player, you know, one of hundreds that we've had in the band, and we had this genius idea. We thought, well, now here's a bit of a long shot. Why don't we ask Tommy to come and join the Bushwhackers? Now that was like right out of left field. And he said yes.
They were so much fun, and they're so down to earth, and I enjoyed every night playing music that made people dance and sing, and having the influence of Irish music, which I hadn't had before.
We had a wonderful Irish fiddle player, guitar player in our band, a fella named Tony O'Neill. Now he could actually play things on the acoustic guitar that Tommy couldn't. Now, this doesn't often happen, I wouldn't have thought.
Like, there's a few tunes that I've written that maybe I wouldn't have written had I not joined the Bushwhackers. You know, for instance, something like this. Or like this. Or a tune like this. Maybe I wouldn't have written melodies like that had I not had that influence of learning some of those beautiful Irish tunes.
I mean, the big danger for us as having him as a bushwhacker, there were all these people who said to us, oh, don't do that, he'll overpower you.
That's always the thing with Tommy. You share the stage. You don't, if you're the lead vocalist, that ain't the ball game. You share the stage because you can't not notice him. And I think he went from there from Dragon. So you can see it's going rock and roll, really rock and roll.
Well, the first song we did with Tommy was Dreams of Ordinary Men in America with Todd Rundgren. And then what happened? Oh, bits and pieces of all sorts of things up there. We toured a lot with them. It was mainly live work at that stage of it.
How I joined the band was an interesting story. They sent me a live tape, but it didn't get to me on time. And it was like the first show with Dragon was a Sunday, and it was at Marimbula, RSL Club, out of town, somewhere where we could get kind of going. There was no rehearsals. They sent me a live tape, and the tape got to me Friday afternoon. So I had Saturday to learn the show. And I had a gig in Brisbane with Phil that night, and then I flew down to Sydney and then on to Marimbula and did the show unrehearsed, no rehearsal.
As a band, we never rehearsed. You know, it wasn't that sort of band, I'm afraid.
Touring with Dragon was a great experience. Again, I love their songwriting, I love their songs, and when the band, well, actually the band always played well. When Mark was on, when he was having a good night, there was nothing like it. It had such power.
What happened, we toured with Tina Turner for a long time, and then we just all came back in different directions, and Don went off to America, and I didn't see everyone for a few months, and it did seem to me by that time that he really should be, you know, solo. It was just, it wasn't fair or right that it was in the context of a band, you know.
I think it was in the period when I was still in Dragon that I started to think about a solo career. When the band came off the road, I had another band playing instrumental music, and Rick Price was the lead singer.
I remember one night at a friend's place at a party. It was really the first time that I ever seen him play up close, you know. And he just had, you know, I think it was my guitar he even picked up and started playing it. And it was a blowout. It was that whole sort of harmonic thing, you know. Just beautiful little things like that. That to me is the trademark of Tommy's acoustic playing. And, you know, of course the...
Oh, I banged the microphone. Sorry, Mike. And doing all that.
I've always been a fan of rhythm, you know, and I think it's really crucial to learn rhythm and the fundamentals of rhythm before you start getting into all the Italy stuff, you know. And Tommy's a master at both, but he's a real king at rhythm guitar. He really makes you feel welcome on stage, and you don't feel like you're playing, you know, in the presence of someone as great as he is, because he's so accommodating of his fellow musicians on stage, and that sets him apart from a lot of people I've played with.
My memories of that night are that he was so damn good. He played with such power and stick, you know.
I do remember just trying to figure out where he was going to go next, and in the end I just thought, you know, I'm not going to think about it, I'm just going to just feel, you know, just feel it and go with it. And it was just a case of almost sort of closing my eyes and just letting your heart and your ears and your soul just connect with Tommy and just see where the heck we're going, because I had no idea. But I don't think Tommy does either. I think he's just going at it, you know, like a train, and it's that's what gets people caught up in the performance.
He's always been very, very generous on stage too, you know. And he always shares the night with people, and if you're in the audience, he always gets you up.
Play him a tune, Tommy. I wanted to hear more of him too, you know. It's one of the great luxuries you have when you're the artist and you can get somebody in like Tommy to come and play for you. It's like, good, I get a chance to sit back and watch the master at work, you know.
The day tripper thing, that was just an idea I had, you know, like I thought if I could sit at the piano and do this, then I would do this thing with my right hand, and with my left I'd go. Again, it was just, you know, I had the idea and I just kept at it until I got it. And it's so much fun to play that stuff, you know. People's eyes bug out when they hear that, you know. And of course, the older folk in the crowd are always looking for the other player off to the side, or the tape machine, you know. They'll argue with you, you know. Oh, there was a tape going. It's impossible. Sir George Martin, what an incredible guy to work with. What an honour that was. That All You Need Is Beatles tour. I remember I made the mistake after the first show at the Opera House because it was so emotional, especially for Glenn Shorrock and I, because, you know, Glenn's the biggest Beatles fan in the world. And to do Penny Lane and Hey Jude and, you know, and Across the Universe and all those songs, it was the most emotional feeling, and we'd come off and crying, you know. Glenn and I'd look at each other and go, oh! You know, because we were just hopeless. It was just so good and it's so nice to be around this guy. But I remember we went back to his room and he mixed up these martinis in these huge big jugs and you know, the squeezed the lemon rind and everything just for the flavour and everything. And I had one and he made me another one. I made the mistake of having it. By the time I got back to the Siebel townhouse and knocked on the door, my wife opened the door and I said, "Hello, darling, how are you going? Everything, we had a great show." You know, it's like too strong.
When I think of Tommy, I just think of energy. He's just so energetic and full of life, you know. He's a real inspiration for somebody who just embraces life.
Well, my first meeting with Tommy was actually at a festival here, and we were playing with the Blue Heeler band, and I sat side of stage watching him play, and then he came off all sweaty and the guitar was all over the shop, and I first got a chance to say g'day, and I actually got to admit I was a little bit speechless because about 3 years prior to that I joined the Thomas Emmanuel Appreciation Club, which was a bit of a wank, I suppose, but I was such a fan I had to find out more about this bloke. So I signed off and sent away, and I had to tell him that I was a member, and he was so thrilled that I actually knew all these things about him, about his growing up and stuff. It's great.
In my opinion, Troy's one of the greatest singers on the planet, and he always plays and sings with great feel. So he's so easy to work with, you know, and he's got a wonderful attitude.
It was actually backstage at that Tamworth Festival where he sat down, we had an acoustic guitar each, we started to just pick on some Merle Haggard songs, and the first thing Tommy did was go, I thought, oh, you dog. So we started singing this song together, and it was a real link. You know, I'd never known the man before. You know, he wouldn't know me from a bar of soap. But when he first heard me sing and I first heard him play that intro to the Merle song, it was a real link that I guess goes back a long, long way.
First thing I remember knowing was a lonesome whistle blowing and a youngin's dream of growing up to ride on a freight train leaving town, not knowing where I'm bound. No one could change my mind, but Mama tried. One and only rebel child from a family meek and mild, my mama seemed to know what lay in store.
Here's Tommy Emmanuel. He's the greatest guitar player, acoustic guitar player we've got in Australia, and he sings like a bird as well. He's a dog. He's a bird dog.
I turned 21 in prison, doing life without parole. No one could steer me right. Mama tried, Mama tried, Mama tried to raise me better. With her pleading I denied. That leaves only me to blame, cause Mama tried. Come on, Tom.
For him to actually sing harmonies with you is a real thrill because, I mean, he doesn't actually open his mouth very often. But I reckon he's a good singer. I think he really has a lot of potential as a singer.
Well, I've only heard him a little bit. I haven't heard a lot. But a lot of people ask why he doesn't sing.
I think he was actually a bit shy about singing.
But he makes the guitar sing, doesn't he?
Personally, I think Tommy thinks anyone can sing a song, but it isn't everyone can play a guitar.
I enjoy to sing. I'm not really a singer, but I really enjoy to sing. It's a good feeling, you know. So, and of course the voice is the first instrument. So, you know, you put that with the second instrument and it makes a good sound.
Once a jolly swagman camped by a billabong under the shade of a coolabah tree, and he sang as he watched and waited till his billy boiled. Who come a waltzing Matilda with me? Waltzing Matilda, waltzing Matilda, who come a waltzing Matilda with me? And he sang as he watched and waited till his billy boiled. Who come a waltzing Matilda with me?
Everywhere I go, there's an Australian who'll sing out. And in the United States, I play Waltzing Matilda and I tell them the story of it and tell them about the spirit of Australia, the spirit of have a go and be fair, you know. And then I sing the song and people love it. They love to hear that. In fact, you know, the first time I played for Chet Atkins, the first thing he said to me is, "Do you play Waltzing Matilda? Could you play it?" You know, and he always loved that song. And I worked out an arrangement of it when I was young, using the thumb and finger style, you know. You come a waltzing Matilda. And so I play that when I play in the States, and wherever I go, I always come out and say, "Hi, my name's Tommy Emmanuel, I'm from Australia."
And his ghost may be heard as you pass by that billabong. You come a waltzing Matilda with me. Now I'm going to pick it one time for Chet.
At 7, he wrote to Chet and he sent him a photograph and wrote on the back of it who he was and that sort of thing. And we got a letter back from Chet with a photo, big photo in it. And he's still got that. He really treasures that.
He's been an inspiration to me, of course, musically and everything, but he's changed the way that I listen to music, that I write music, and my quality control unit constantly rises because of his influence.
On the CD, there's a few songs of him and Chet playing together. I can't pick which one it is anymore. I can't. I used to be able to, but I can't now.
I wanted to write a song for him, you know, that was a tribute to him, so I wrote the tune Mr. Guitar, which I'll play a little bit of. It goes like this. Yeah.
Chet created an award, which he's the one who has it. It's called the Certified Guitar Player, which, you know, it's an award from Chet for excellence in guitar playing, you know, according to him. Now, and he's the authority, and he's who other people use as the benchmark of who's the best. He's the best, okay? And if he says you're the best, then you're the best. There are only 3 other CGPs.
There's Chet, Jerry Reed, John Knowles, and myself. So there. And on my award, it says in recognition of a lifetime, hang on, let me get the words right. In recognition of your lifetime contribution to the art of fingerstyle guitar. That's it. That's Chet's words. That's how he talks. You know.
Well, I've always thought Tommy should have been certified.
I love some of his banter on stage. You know, he'll introduce a song and then he'll go, you know, and I'm going to play it for you right now. I can't wait to hear it myself.
I walk out on stage and say, you know, good evening, I'd like to start with Beethoven's 7th, but I don't know it. You know, stuff like that. I mean, that's as old as time, but people still laugh. They love it. And it's a way of you bringing down the barriers so we all just have a great time.
Virginia, there was a family who were following us around and coming to see us in every town and everything. And the mother had come up to say hello and get an autograph, and she had her little daughter right behind, just kind of behind her leg. And she looked at me and she said, "My little daughter keeps saying, 'Mommy, where does he keep his wings?'"
He's one of the most connected spirits I've ever met. He's just full of life, and he's definitely plugged into something that's much higher than all of us, and he's well aware of it too, and in a good way. And I think he recognizes the blessing and the gift of music, and that's what you get caught up in. I get chills thinking about it. He's a child of the universe. He's amazing, man. I can't say enough about him.
If someone came to me and said, give me an explanation of Tommy Emmanuel's style, I'd say, get a jar and put Chet Atkins in it and Jerry Reed, and then put a dash of whatever style you want from the Beatles and every other beautiful melody that's ever been written, and shake it up, and then you pour it out and you've got a big glass of Tommy Emmanuel. To me, he's the ultimate cocktail of guitar player you'll ever get. Fair dinkum.
That's my job in life, is to make people feel great and to allow the beauty and the spirit of music to just wash over people. And I just let it go every time I play. And that's why it works, you know.